savage!
That meltdown, yeah, that might be exactly how Diddy's reacting in his cell right now. Word is Justin Bieber just teamed up with Cassie, and that unexpected alliance is shaking up Diddy's already crumbling legal defense. What they just did might be the move that seals his fate and keeps him locked up for good. Let's get into it. The Cassie bombshell. Now listen, if you've been living under a rock or your Wi-Fi has been struggling harder than Diddy's defense team, let me catch you up real quick. Diddy is currently locked up facing some serious charges, including sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The trial started on May 12, 2025 in New York City and has been serving up more shocking moments than the Tyler Perry finale for real. At the center of this legal hurricane is Cassie Ventura, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, who dated him on and off from 2007 to 2018. This woman has been through it, y'all. And when I say it, I mean the kind of trauma that would make even the strongest person crumble. But Cassie Nash, she ain't crumbling. She's testifying. Cassie first filed a civil lawsuit against Diddy in November 2023, accusing him of physical abuse and forcing her into intimate encounters with male escorts during what he called free course. That lawsuit was settled in just 24 hours for a reported $20 million. But that was just the beginning, because now she's a star witness in the federal criminal case against him for 4 days, May 13th through May 16th, 2025. Cassie sat on that witness stand, spilling tea that was so hot it could melt steel. The courtroom was shook as she detailed years of alleged physical and psychological abuse, control, and coercion from a man who was supposed to love her, not terrorize her.
I don't know if that's possible. Once you see that video of him putting his hands on Cassie Ventura, and for her to be the one to testify, and for her to be the one testifying on behalf of the prosecution, considering the fact that she was his lady, considering the fact that reportedly, she engaged in activities she otherwise would not have wanted to at the behest of him. When you consider some of the things that they're saying about him, and the fact that your ex-girl, with all the evidence in the world to come at you, one would surmise, is willing to do so for the prosecution. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not good.
Not good. That's the understatement of the century. This is catastrophic for Diddy. Imagine your ex coming to court with receipts longer than a CVS receipt after you buy a single chapstick. That's Cassie right now, and Diddy's whole empire is crumbling because of it. Let's break down some of what Cassie revealed during her testimony, because it's truly the stuff of nightmares. She described how Diddy began physically abusing her within the first year of their relationship, with incidents that were too many to count, y'all. That's not a relationship, that's a hostage situation. One of the most damning pieces of evidence is that 2016 surveillance video from the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles that shows Diddy dragging, kicking, and punching Cassie in a hallway. The footage was released by CNN in 2024, and it's absolutely horrifying to watch. In her testimony, Cassie said she sustained a fat lip and bruises from that attack, which apparently happened after she tried to leave one of these so-called free course. Now let's talk about these free course for a minute. According to Cass's testimony, these were essentially intimate gatherings that Diddy orchestrated involving male escorts. She was allegedly forced to participate while Diddy watched and recorded. The whole thing sounds like something out of a horror movie, except it was Cass's real life in the full of Diddy docu series of makeup artists who worked for both Diddy and Cassie described witnessing the aftermath of Diddy's violence. She said, after one incident, Cassie had knots on her head, bruised. I busted lip. It was so bad that they were afraid to call the police or go to the hospital. Just imagine being so terrified of someone that you can't even seek medical help after they've beaten you. That's the level of control and fear we're talking about.
And she details the first time she alleged she saw Puff put his hands on Cassie. Let's take a listen.
Puff and Cassie were dating. There was a party, and she was staying at the Beverly Hills Hotel. I fall asleep on the couch cause I don't go out, and he storms in where he is. I wake up all of a sudden like who, and then they go into the room, shuts the door. I hears, get the out of here, get the out of here, is like on a rage, is being puffed. I'm packing her stuff up. Once he leaves, I see the aftermath on Cassie. She has knots on her head, bruised. I busted lip. It was horrific, and so all I can think of was, we need to get back to my house. You need to get the out of here. We can't call the police. We can't go to the hospital. We're scared of Puff. But Cassie wasn't the only witness dropping bombs on Diddy. Dawn Richard, a former member of Danny Kane and Diddy Dirty Money, took the stand on May 16 to corroborate Cassie's claims. She testified about witnessing Diddy attack Cassie in 2009 at his Los Angeles mansion, describing how he hit her in the head and beat her on the ground. Y'all, When someone's former employees and bandmates are coming forward with stories like this, you know there's a pattern, and it doesn't stop there. Homeland Security agent named Yasim Binder testified about the September 2024 search of Diddy's Park Hyatt hotel room, where authorities seized all kinds of suspect items, $9,000 in cash, ketamine, MDMA, multiple bottles of baby oil, and a mood lighting device. I mean, the hotel room was set up like a whole crime scene waiting to happen. Now, Diddy's defense team is trying their best to spin this narrative. They are portraying Ventura as a willing participant in these freak-offs and suggesting that her accusations are motivated by financial gain. During cross-examination, they highlighted explicit text messages from 2016 where Ventura appeared to plan a freak-off with Combs, but Cassie ain't backing down. She maintained that her participation was coerced through fear and manipulation, and even stated that she would return the $20 million settlement if she could erase the experiences. Can you blame her? Money can't heal trauma, period, and the kind of trauma Cassie described on the stand, that's the type that stays with you forever. She testified about being forced to participate in these encounters even when she was sick, menstruating, or had a urinary tract infection. She felt humiliated and disgusted, but felt she had no choice because Diddy allegedly threatened violence or to release the recorded videos if she refused. It beyond sad, it's downright disturbing. And the fact that Cassie has the strength to get on that stand and recount all this trauma in front of the world, that takes a kind of courage that most of us will never understand. But this is just the beginning of our deep dive into this explosive story. Next, we're going to talk about how Justin Bieber fits into all of this and why his recent statement has Diddy seeing red from behind bars. A young pop star's connection to this whole scandal is way more complex than you might think, and the resurfaced videos of him with Diddy from years ago have many people concerned the Bieber connection. So let's rewind to the late 2000s. Justin Bieber was just a baby-faced teenager with floppy hair and dreams of becoming a superstar. Enter Sean Diddy Combs, a music mogul who took an interesting interest in the young talent. Their relationship began around 2008 to 2009 when Bieber was just 15 years old, having been introduced through Usher, who, by the way, was mentored by Diddy himself back in the day. Now, in light of the current allegations against Diddy, people are revisiting these early interactions with a much more critical eye, and honestly, the vibes are giving major creep alert. One of the most talked about clips is from a 2009 YouTube video titled Justin Bieber's 48 Hours with Diddy. In this video, Diddy, who was about 40 at the time, described spending 48 hours with 15-year-old Bieber as a 15-year-old's dream and says they're going to go buck full crazy. He even claims to have custody of Bieber for the weekend, referencing his past guardianship of Usher.
Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like, where we hanging out and what we doing, we can't really disclose, but, it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher. I'm signed to Usher. I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So, and we gonna go full crazy.
Justin, isn't you ever seen the movie 48 Hours right now, is having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy, and they're having the times of their lives, like where we're hanging out and what we do, and we can't really disclose. But it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher, who signed us. I had legal guardianship of Usher. When he did his first album, I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me, so and we go into full crazy.
What's up, man? You good?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Young brother, everything's good?
Everything's
Selling
great.
out arenas and everything?
Yeah.
Starting to act different, huh?
No,
you ain't been calling me and hanging out the way we used to hang out.
Well, you try to get in contact with me, through all my, partners and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But you never really got my number, so.
Right, okay.
My number?
Yeah.
I'll just tell you my number.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what we can't really disclose what they are doing buttful crazy with a 15-year-old kid that's giving more red flags than a communist parade. Imagine if some 40-year-old man was saying this about spending time with a 15-year-old girl. The police would be at his door faster than you can say Chris Hansen. But the creep factor doesn't stop there. Another video from 2010 shows Diddy giving Bieber a Letterman jacket and questioning why they haven't been hanging out. Bieber appears visibly uncomfortable, stammering that Diddy hadn't called him and offering his phone number.
You come out, you gotta, wear a seatbelt.
I mean, I'm 15. You could ride in the passenger seat. I got my permit. Not yet.
He had the Lamborghini for a day or two, and he had access to the house, and he knows better than to be talking about the things that he does with Big Brother Puff on national television.
Well, apparently not.
Everything ain't for everybody.
Everything ain't for everybody, yeah, especially not underage kids. Diddy, the way he's talking about Bieber like it's some sort of possession is seriously disturbing. Fast forward to 2024, and these videos have taken on a whole new context in light of the allegations against Diddy. People are speculating that Bieber might have been exposed to inappropriate situations or even been a victim of grooming. And when you look at how Bieber's career and personal life unfolded with struggles with substance abuse, mental health issues, and periods of erratic behavior, it's hard not to wonder if there's a connection in one particularly disturbing clip that resurfaces from 2021. Diddy is seen patting down Bieber's chest in what many interpret as checking for why you're. That's not normal behavior. That's a kind of paranoid move you'd expect from someone with something serious to hide. However, it's important to note that despite all the speculation and concern, Bieber has not come forward as a victim. In fact, on May 15th, 2025, in the midst of Diddy's trial, Bieber's representatives issued a statement to multiple outlets, including TMZ, People, and in news addressing the rumors head-on. Although Justin is not among Sean Combs' victims, there are individuals who were genuinely harmed by him. Shifting focus away from this reality detracts from the justice these victims rightfully deserve. Sources close to Bieber told TMZ that his public appearances with Combs were performative and that he was closer to Combs' sons and to Combs himself. They explicitly denied any abuse, sexual or otherwise. But here's where things get juicy and why Diddy is fuming behind bars even though Bieber isn't claiming to be a victim. His statement is actually a major blow to Diddy by acknowledging that there are victims who deserve justice, is essentially siding with people like Cassie. Is saying, I believe these women. And for someone with Bieber's enormous platform and influence, that a huge statement. Think about it, Bieber could have stayed silent. He could have issued a vague statement wishing Diddy well during his challenging time or some other PR nonsense. But instead, he specifically acknowledged the victims and implicitly supported their pursuit of justice. That's basically Bieber saying, I believe Cassie, without naming her directly. And you'll know Diddy is seething about this as former mentee, someone he once claimed custody of for a weekend, is now indirectly supporting the prosecution's case against him at a betrayal of the highest order. In Diddy's mind, and sources say he feels completely abandoned by the industry figures he once considered allies. According to insiders, Bieber has been completely disgusted by the allegations against Diddy and advised to stay as far away as possible from anything related to him. Is also reportedly been struggling mentally with processing these revelations, especially given their past association. Remember, this isn't just about Bieber distancing himself from Diddy, it's about him actively acknowledging the victim's claims as valid, which is essentially supporting Cass's testimony by extension. And with the kind of evidence Cassie has brought to the table, including that horrific hotel video and the detailed testimony about years of abuse, Diddy can see the writing on the wall. His former allies are jumping ship, but Bieber isn't the only person from Diddy's past who's been suspiciously quiet or subtly distancing themselves. It seems like everyone who was once in Diddy's inner circle is doing their best to avoid any association with him. Now even Usher, who was mentored by Diddy in the 9S and later introduced Bieber to him, has been notably quiet about the whole situation. Speaking of Usher, let's not forget some of the comments he's made in the past about his time with Diddy. In a 2016 interview with Howard Stern, Usher described witnessing very Curious things at Diddy's home when he lived there at age 15. When Stern asked if he'd let his own kid go to a puffy camp, Usher didn't hesitate. Hell no, it makes you wonder what Usher might have witnessed during his time with Diddy and whether Bieber had similar experiences. A parallel between their situations, both young artists mentored by Diddy at vulnerable ages, are hard to ignore. But what's particularly fascinating about Bieber's statement is the timing. He waited until Cass's testimony was well underway before breaking his silence. It's almost as if he wanted to see how strong the case against Diddy was before picking a side. And after 4 days of Cass's devastating testimony corroborated by other witnesses and physical evidence, Bieber made his choice, and it wasn't to stand with Diddy. The strategic timing suggests that Bieber is carefully calculating his moves. He doesn't want to be seen as a victim himself, perhaps to protect his own mental health and avoid the scrutiny that would come with such a claim. But he also doesn't want to be on the wrong side of history by supporting an alleged abuser, so he threads a needle by acknowledging other victims while distancing himself from any personal victimhood. It's a smart move, but one that has undoubtedly left Diddy feeling betrayed. After all, Diddy once boasted about his influence over young artists like Bieber and Usher. Now those same artists are either speaking out against him or notably silent in his time of need. But the Bieber connection is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. This case extends beyond just Cassie and Bieber, with other alleged victims coming forward, and the music industry's culture of silence finally beginning to crack the fallout. And Future, let's start by addressing something important. Cassie Ventura is not alone. Since her initial lawsuit in November 2023, over 70 sexual assault lawsuits have been filed against Diddy involving more than 100 accusers. This isn't one isolated incident or relationship. We're talking about an alleged pattern of behavior spanning decades. Among those who have come forward with their own lawsuits are Dawn Richard, who we mentioned earlier, also testified at the trial, April Lampro, Crystal McKinney, Brianna Bannabong Allen, and Rodney Lil Rod Jones. Each of these individuals has their own story of alleged abuse, coercion, or exploitation at the hands of Diddy. Let's take Dawn Richard, for example. She filed a lawsuit in September 2020 for alleging sexual abuse and manipulation by Combs. As a former member of Danny Kane and Diddy Dirty Money, she claims to have witnessed Diddy's abusive behavior not only toward Cassie but also toward Kim Porter, his late ex-partner. Then there's Rodney Lyle Rod Jones, a former producer for Combs, who filed a lawsuit in February 2020 for alleging sexual assault and coercion. Jones claimed Diddy groped him and forced him into intimate situations, including one allegedly involving actor Cuba Gooding Jr. On Diddy's show. Jones also alleges that he wasn't properly compensated for his work on the Love album. But it's not just the lawsuits that are piling up. We're also seeing more and more disturbing accounts from witnesses. In a recent interview, a witness named Courtney Burgess claims he was in possession of flash drives that belonged to the late Kim Porter containing compromising video from Diddy's free course and parties.
And if you follow this story, you'll know that Kim Porter is Diddy's ex-girlfriend and the mother of 4 of his kids. On those drives, the witness says 8 videos featured 8 celebrities at Diddy freak-offs or parties, and that 6 were males, 2 were females. The drive also included a manuscript of an alleged Kim Porter memoir, a memoir that her 4 kids insist is.
This witness claims that the videos featured 8 celebrities, 6 males and 2 females, and that 2 to 3 of them appeared to be minors. All of them, according to Burgess, appeared to be intoxicated. Now, I want to emphasize that these claims haven't been independently verified, but the fact that this person testified before a federal grand jury suggests the authorities are taking these allegations seriously. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of all this is how long it's been allowed to continue. Why did it take until 2023 for these allegations to come to light in a major way? The answer lies in the culture of silence that has long pervaded the music industry. As one anonymous drug dealer told the New York Post in a recent article, after witnessing some questionable activities at one of Diddy's Hamptons parties, they immediately lost respect for certain rappers but kept quiet about what they saw. That's the power of fear and intimidation at work, people afraid to speak out against Someone with so much influence, even more telling, are the comments from celebrities who tried to warn us about Diddy years ago. In a 2016 Howard Stern interview, Usher described witnessing very curious things at Diddy's home, but his cryptic language shows how afraid people were to speak directly about what they saw. So where does this all leave us now, with Cass's powerful testimony, Bieber's indirect support of victims, and the mountain of other allegations piling up? The future is looking grim for Diddy. Let's break down what's currently happening and what might come next. As of May 17th, 2025, the trial is in its second week. The prosecution is still building its case, with Cass's testimony having concluded on May 16th. Dawn Richard and Homeland Security agent Yassine Binder have also testified, providing further evidence against Diddy. The prosecution is expected to call additional alleged victims to testify in the coming weeks, referred to as Victim 2, Victim 3, and possibly Victim 4, to protect their identities. However, there are some concerns about the availability of Victim 3, as prosecutors have reportedly struggled to contact their lawyer after the prosecution rests its case, which could take several more weeks. The defense will present their side. Diddy's defense team, led by attorneys Mark Agnifo, Tenny Garagos, and Brian Steele, is arguing that the free course of consensual acts within a swinger's lifestyle, and that Diddy's relationships involve mutual affection, not coercion, but with the overwhelming evidence being presented, including that damning surveillance video from 2016. It's hard to see how Diddy can wriggle out of this one. If convicted, he faces up to life in prison, with a mandatory minimum of 15 years for the sex trafficking charges. A trial is expected to last approximately 2 months, potentially concluding in July 2025. But regardless of the verdict, the damage to Diddy's reputation and legacy is already done. The man who once ruled the hip-hop industry is now a pariah, with former friends and associates distancing themselves faster than rats from a sinking ship. The sheer number of alleged victims coming forward, over 120 accusers, according to attorney Tony Busby, suggests that this isn't just one bad apple. It's an industry-wide problem that has been swept under the rug for decades. Some commentators have compared Diddy to other high-profile cases like Harvey Weinstein or Jeffrey Epstein, pointing to the role of enablers and a culture of silence, as DJ Academics noted in a recent discussion.